It was a calm evening in the heart of Lakeside Ridge, a mid-sized town with a reputation for its quaint charm and quiet streets. People strolled past local boutiques and coffee spots, laughter and music spilling into the dusk air. Strolling down Main Street was Marcus Hale, retired Special Forces, now just another face in the crowd. He wore a fitted black tee, worn jeans, and low-cut boots. A rugged canvas bag hung across his chest, and for the first time in a while, his mind was at ease. He was on his way to Maple and Ink, a tucked-away bookstore he hadn't visited in ages. But that moment of calm didn't last. Just as Marcus stepped off the curb, a police SUV skidded to a stop not far behind him. Heads turned. Tires had barely finished screeching when the driver's door swung open. Officer Trent Maddox, stocky and pale with a buzz cut and a badge that looked freshly polished, emerged like he was stepping onto a stage. "You," Maddox barked, walking with purpose. "Where you off to in such a hurry?" Marcus halted, confused but composed. He turned slowly, taking in the officer's tense posture and scanning gaze. "Just heading to pick up a book," Marcus said calmly, not yet giving up the peace he'd been feeling moments ago. Around them, pedestrians began to slow. A couple leaned against a bakery window, watching. A woman stopped tying her dog's leash to a bench. Maddox smirked, his tone oily. "That bag looks heavy. Carrying anything I should be worried about?" Marcus adjusted the strap on his shoulder. "You want to take a look?" His voice didn't waver. It wasn't defiant, just steady. Controlled. Like he'd played this scene out before. The officer's hand drifted to his belt. "I'll ask the questions," he snapped, but his steps faltered slightly as he got closer. Marcus's stillness made Maddox uneasy. There was something in the way he held himself, poised but not tense. Confident but not aggressive. "Drop the bag," Maddox ordered louder, trying to sound authoritative. Marcus set it down slowly. "No problem," he said, his tone cool. He didn't flinch, didn't challenge. He made it easy, but not submissive. As Maddox grabbed the bag, the crowd grew. Phones slid out. Someone whispered, "Start filming." Another muttered, "Same old script." "Hands behind your back," Maddox demanded, reaching for cuffs. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Am I being arrested?" "You're being detained," Maddox replied, avoiding eye contact. "You match someone we're looking for." A teenage girl in the crowd let out a soft, "Seriously?" while a man nearby said, "Never changes." Marcus nodded, almost smiling. "Let me help make this easier." He slowly reached into his back pocket and produced a slim black ID holder. He flipped it open and handed it over. Maddox glanced at it. His expression faltered for half a second. U.S. Army Special Forces, Captain Marcus Hale, the ID read. Marcus crossed his arms, waiting. "Still think I match your mystery man?" The phones moved in closer. Maddox tossed the ID back. "Doesn't mean you're off the hook," he muttered. "Stay put while I check the bag." Marcus said nothing, his arms still crossed, his eyes locked on the officer like he was studying him, not the other way around. Maddox unzipped the bag and pulled out a hardcover. "What's this?" he said, holding it like it might explode. The title read Resilience in Chaos, Lessons from the Edge. "I wrote it," Marcus replied plainly. "You wrote it?" Maddox repeated, as if he hadn't heard right. "Want me to sign it?" Marcus asked. The crowd snickered. Flustered, Maddox shoved it back in and continued rifling. Next came a matte black laptop, a steel water bottle, and a journal. He flipped the book open, his face tightening as he skimmed a passage. "You don't lead to be seen. You lead because others need direction when everything falls apart." Maddox stared at the words. Something flickered in his face, something he quickly pushed down. "Anything criminal in there, officer?" Marcus asked casually, a trace of challenge threading through the politeness. With a loud zip, Maddox shoved the journal back in. "You can go," he said quickly. Marcus didn't move. "Not yet." The crowd hushed. Phones were now aimed directly at the officer. "You stopped me. You searched me. You put on a show. Now you're going to explain it, right here, right now." A voice from the crowd called out, "Yeah, say it out loud." Another added, "We saw the whole thing." Maddox shifted on his feet, suddenly aware of how surrounded he was. The confidence he'd had at the start was gone. He looked cornered. Marcus stood tall. "No answer?" he asked. "What's this mysterious description you stopped me for?" Maddox's lips parted, but no words came out. Everyone watching knew there had never been any description. "Let me guess," Marcus continued, "just a guy walking while black? That what this is about?" Gasps rippled. The crowd grew louder, some now shouting. Maddox's jaw clenched. "This wasn't about public safety," Marcus said, stepping closer. "It was about control. You thought you could humiliate me. You didn't expect me to stay calm. You didn't expect me to have credentials. You sure didn't expect me to know exactly how to handle you." He turned slightly to address the crowd. "And that's the issue. Most people in this position don't have a uniform to fall back on. No camera to record it. No one to say, 'I saw it happen.'" Cheers erupted. A few clapped. Someone shouted, "Preach." Maddox tried to interject, "I was just doing my job." Marcus didn't even blink. "If this is your job, maybe you're in the wrong one." People shouted in agreement. Someone yelled, "He needs to be reported." Marcus pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. The red recording indicator was already flashing. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're going to explain to everyone watching why you picked me, why you went through my things, and why you thought that was okay." Maddox's face went pale. Sweat beaded on his forehead. I was just acting on suspicion," he said, looking anywhere but at Marcus. "Suspicion?" Marcus repeated, stepping even closer. "That's not a free pass to harass people. It's not a license to flex power when you're bored." The officer opened his mouth to respond. "No. We're not doing excuses," Marcus said, raising his voice slightly. "You didn't stop anyone else here. You zeroed in on me. Then you got caught in front of everyone." The crowd cheered again. Maddox stumbled for words, stammering something incoherent. Marcus lowered his voice, but the weight of his words hit harder than before. "You didn't expect pushback. You've probably done this dozens of times, maybe more. But today, you chose the wrong man." The silence that followed was a pressure cooker. Officer Maddox stood motionless, his jaw clenched, his pride sinking fast under the weight of dozens of eyes and lenses that had seen everything. There was no way to spin it now. The badge on his chest couldn't shield him from the truth pouring out of the crowd or the quiet power radiating from Marcus Hale. Then a voice cut through the noise. "You're not above the law," a woman called out from the crowd, holding her phone steady. "And you're not immune to accountability." That broke the dam. "File a report. Get his badge number." Enough is enough. Maddox, now visibly shaken, muttered something about procedure and tried to retreat. But Marcus stepped forward, not aggressive, just immovable. "You don't get to walk away that easy," Marcus said, his voice steady, but firm. "This wasn't just a bad judgment call. This was a violation of my rights, of my dignity, of your responsibility to serve without bias." He turned slightly toward the gathering crowd, now easily over 50 people deep. "This moment isn't just about me," he said. "It's about what happens when we don't speak up. When we let things slide. When we let fear or silence excuse injustice. That ends today." Applause erupted. Not loud and rowdy, but steady, earnest. The kind of applause that comes from recognition, not performance. "See, when someone like Officer Maddox here stops a man like me without cause, it sends a message," Marcus continued. "It says I don't belong. That my peace, my privacy, my existence are all conditional. And I'm here to say no. Not anymore." Maddox looked like he wanted to disappear. But Marcus wasn't done. "Your badge is not a weapon," he said, locking eyes with the officer. "It's a promise. To protect. To serve. And if you can't do that without profiling, without ego, without fear, then maybe it's time someone took that badge off your chest." The crowd surged with support. Someone stepped forward, a man in a button-down shirt who quietly approached Marcus. "I'm with the Lakeside Town Council," he said, barely above a whisper. "We saw everything. This won't be ignored." Marcus nodded once, his expression unreadable. He wasn't smiling. This wasn't a victory lap. It was a reckoning. The crowd began to disperse slowly, murmurs of support and conversation trailing off as people tucked phones away and returned to their evenings. Changed, if only a little. Maddox, looking defeated, turned and walked back to his vehicle, his retreat captured from every angle. Marcus didn't move for a while. He bent down, picked up his bag and adjusted it over his shoulder like it weighed nothing at all. And then he walked, slowly, calmly, toward that bookstore he never made it to. Maybe the peace he felt earlier was gone for now, but something else had replaced it. Purpose. Because in that moment, Marcus Hale wasn't just a former soldier. He was a man who stood his ground. And sometimes, that's more than enough to change everything. As Marcus turned the corner, the last rays of sunlight stretched across the sidewalk like a quiet reminder that the day wasn't over, and neither was the fight. He didn't need a crowd or a camera to know his worth. He carried that with him, deep in his spine, forged from years of discipline and integrity. The city hadn't changed, not yet. But a seed had been planted. And tomorrow, when someone else is tested, maybe they'll stand tall too, just like he did.